Hidden Stone Village. The Hidden Stone Village is one of the Great Five Shinobi Nations. Their leader is called the Tsujikake, or Earth Shadow, and their current one is Inoki. Inoki is a very short old man with a triangular beard and a mustache that has angular corners, a big red nose, and thick eyebrows. The top of his head is completely bald, although he has long white hair on the lower half of his head, which is styled in a traditional Kanamage haircut, the back of which is tied with a yellow ribbon into a top knot. He wears a green and yellow coat with a red collar. Underneath, he wears the traditional Iwagakure outfit consistent of a light green version of Iwagakure's flak jacket and mesh armor. He, however, has both the sleeves of his shirt, but kept a single lapel on his right side. Along with this, he wears sandals. The Stone Village is well known for their rock-hard attitude and extreme loyalty of their shinobi. Once their leader issues an order, they will follow it blindly, even if it costs their lives. The standard attire for shinobi from this village consists of a red outfit, which can have sleeves, a lapel which is usually found on the side, without a sleeve, and a brown flak jacket. They also tend to wear mesh armor around their ankles. Iwagakure ninjas seem to specialize in earth release technique. Speaking of the village itself, it's located in the midst of some rocky mountains. These mountains provide natural defense, making the village a stronghold. Unlike Konoha, the houses are built completely out of stone instead of wood, making them more durable and resistant in case of attack. Currently, we find the Tsujikake in his office, navigating the maze of paperwork that seems to plague every Kage. His office is located in the biggest structure on the village, which all of them are cone-shaped. Curse, damn this paperwork, the Tsujikake said, cursing this paperwork with all his might. He was half tempted to vaporize everything around him, which wouldn't be too hard. Why it wouldn't be too hard? It would be very simple. The Tsujikake is the last known wielder of the dust released. Although technically it isn't a Kekkei, one must have affinity for earth, fire, and wind, which isn't very common for shinobi to have natural affinities for more than two elements. Inoki is a very proud, headstrong, and boastful individual. Due to his age, he's also somewhat frail, with constant complaints about his back and hip. Although he's old, similar to the Hokage in fact, he refuses to step down from the Kage position until he finds a worthy heir to his position. The Tsujikake picked up a paper, and it was a simple report of a simple D-rank mission. He quickly scanned through it and stamped it, placing it on the other end of the table. This was his routine when not sleeping. He would spend his days reading and stamping reports. He was broken from his work by a knock on the door. "Come in," Inoki said. The door opened and a man entered. He was wearing the standard Iwa attire with the exception that the red shirt went all the way up to his chin. He had black eyes with brown hair, styled with a small ponytail. "Good morning, Lord Tsujikake," the man said, greeting his leader and kneeling in front of him. "Masato, need something?" Inoki asked. Masato was in fact the village's master spy. The spy master's job, like the name states, is to keep tabs on the other villages and other information that might seem relevant to his village's safety and welfare. "Yes, Lord Tsujikage," Masato replied, standing up. "We have received a letter from the stand, addressed directly to you, and came in their fastest carrier. And also we heard of something interesting in Konoha," Masato explained, handing the letter over to the Tsujikake. The letter had already been scanned to make sure it wasn't an explosive tag or other trap. "Lord Tsujikake, we are sending this message in our fastest carrier as the situation is very strenuous to us, and we would like a reply as fast as possible. 5 days ago, our village allied itself with the Sound Village and launched an invasion against Konoha. The invasion didn't go as planned, and we, along with the Sound, were defeated. It appears that Konoha had somehow found out about the invasion prior to it, and was able to prepare. We have severely underestimated their power, and we placed faith on someone of questionable integrity. A mistake on our part. According to our report, Konoha Jinchuriki was responsible for defeating the fully released Shukaku, but also killed our Kage along with 200 of our own. A more detailed report is attached to the letter. We took a crippling blow to our forces, and as such we propose an alliance with your village, as it holds no love for Konoha. This would be a complete alliance, meaning more commercial routes and agreements, and of course military help if needed. We have also dispatched a letter to the Earth Daimyo explaining the situation, as the Wind Daimyo has agreed with an alliance should you accept. Yours faithfully, Suna Council. The Tsujikake read the letter a couple of times so he wouldn't miss anything. So, they let themselves be guided by Orochimaru. Fools, Inoki thought. Placing your trust in a missing ninja is hardly ever a good idea, and Orochimaru didn't exactly have the best reputation. Judging from the letter, they must fear a possible invasion if they are requesting an alliance with us, of all people, Inoki mused and thought. Iwa, much like Kuma, were independent, and they didn't particularly like alliances. Interesting, Inoki thought out loud. Sir, Masato said. The Sand wants an alliance with us, Inoki said, but Masato didn't seem particularly surprised. You don't seem surprised, Inoki stated. I've heard some very interesting news from our spies in Konoha, but I was going to inform you after you had read the letter, Masato stated. Do you have the reports? Inoki asked, and Masato nodded, handing them the report of their invasion based on the survivors. Inoki quickly read through the invasion reports, and it was basic stuff on how Suna got their asses handed to them, and they ran with their tails between their legs. He kept on reading until he found that part of Konoha's Jinchuriki, someone named Naruto Uzumaki. Apparently the Jinchuriki was nothing more than a brat of 14 years old, and yet this genin managed to kill a fifth of Suna's forces with a single jutsu. He had displayed a high level of ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu, it seems that Konoha still bets on that, Inoki thought, as he continued on reading the letter until he found a picture of said Jinchuriki. His eyes widened, and his blood ran cold when he saw what the Jinchuriki looked like. He still couldn't forget those cold blue eyes and that spiky golden hair. He felt as if he was staring at the Namikaze once again. It can't be, Inoki thought. How he despised the Namikaze. Minato was the reason Konoha won the Third Shinobi War by slaughtering 1,000 of their shinobi in just a couple of seconds. And now Inoki was staring at some kid who looked just like him, except he had longer hair and whisker marks on his face, but the similarities were too much to ignore. Masato, Inoki said, getting his attention. What news have you heard from Konoha? Inoki quickly asked to see if he had heard anything on this Naruto. Apparently, Konoha has a Senju heir, which is none other than this Jinchuriki Naruto, Masato explained it. But the kicker is that this Naruto is the son of Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, Masato stated, confirming Inoki's biggest fears. So, the bastard sealed the Kyuubi inside his own son, Inoki said. Namikaze had reproduced and unleashed another Yellow Flash upon this world. Inoki would have his revenge. He would avenge his son's death by the Yellow Flash by killing his son in return. But there's more, Masato said, and Inoki focused on him. Naruto Senju, the son of Minato Namikaze. Naruto is apparently the grandson of Madara Uchiha, which would mean that Minato was Madara's son. Inoki finished by him in a disbelieving tone, and Masato nodded. Inoki also despised Madara sometimes even more than the Yellow Flash. When he was younger and they had just signed a treaty with Konoha, Madara had the ghoul stating that Iwa was nothing more than Konoha's slaves. It seemed as Iwa had a very grim past with those of Uchiha blood. After all, Iwa wanted Madara dead, and they got that. And then Namikaze appears as if to finish his father's job of killing Iwa shinobi. To think that Namikaze would be Madara's son, Inoki said, gritting his teeth. However, I do find it strange that no one ever knew of his Sharingan, Inoki mused out loud. The son of the most powerful Uchiha to ever live would without a doubt awaken his Sharingan, but they never knew of it. In fact, they didn't know of the Namikaze's parents until 14 years after his death. It seems Konoha has a Namikaze heir, but they stacked all their cards into one person. He's both the last Senju, as Tsunade is his past reproducing age, and the last Namikaze, Inoki thought as he rubbed his beard. Or Uchiha, I should say, Inoki corrected. What are we going to do regarding Suna and the Namikaze bastard? Masato asked. He too, along with all of Iwa, had no love towards Minato, and finding out that he was the son of Madara Uchiha didn't exactly help. We can't do any direct actions against the Yellow Flash's brat right now, as it would raise too much attention. Let it cool down a bit before, Inoki explained. The world had just been informed of a Namikaze heir, and trying to kill him right now would raise too much suspicion towards Iwa, so it could wait. Regarding Suna, I'm tempted to accept their alliance, Inoki said. What are your thoughts? Inoki asked Masato. Unlike Konoha or Suna, Iwa was a full dictatorship with Inoki holding all of the power. But even then, he would seek out the advice of his most trusted shinobi. I think we should accept. We have nothing to lose, and I've heard that Konoha doesn't intend to attack them. So this must be some guarantee against Kumo since Kiri is still in war, Masato explained. I concur with your assessment, Inoki agreed, and quickly wrote a reply to Suna's request. After Suna had chosen their new Kazekage, they would have a formal meeting with both Kages to discuss the full terms of their alliance, and iron out any details. Send it to Suna, Inoki said, giving the letter to Masato, who sealed it. What about the Senju? Masato asked. He had nothing against the Senju clan itself, but knowing that he was the son of the Yellow Flash and Madara's grandson sealed his fate. Like I said, let things cool down for now, Inoki explained. In the meantime, put him in the bingo book. I want him captured alive, so he can be executed in front of the whole village to show them what happens when they mess with Iwa, Inoki said, grinning. That would be his last act as Tsujikake, killing Namikaze's brat. What rank and bounty shall we give? Masato asked. Based on the report and knowing he's the bastard son, give him Naruto and Company. It was the day after Tsunade and Naruto had talked with their family, and currently we find them in some empty field training. Since Tsunade had agreed to meet Orochimaru, and with him injured, they had the golden opportunity to end him once and for all. This world would be a better place without that snake laying around. Hinata was training with Shizune and Tsunade. Since she asked for it, they might as well start it already. So, you want to become a medic ninja, right? Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded. Why? Tsunade asked, as she never got the full story from her. Because I prefer to heal people than hurt them, Hinata replied, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Don't get me wrong, I know when it's necessary to hurt or kill someone, but I prefer to make people feel better, Hinata explained. She never liked killing, as she was too kind for that, but she knew that sometimes it was for the best. Naruto really chose well, Tsunade said, smirking and making Hinata slightly blush. Alright, brat, I'll train you. From now on, you call me Tsunade-sensei when I'm training you. You got that? Tsunade asked. Yes, Tsunade-sensei, Hinata replied without a shred of doubt in her voice. For starters, tell me what you know, Tsunade said. I have very good chakra control and knowledge of the human anatomy, and even better understanding of poisons and antidotes, but also medical herbs. I don't know any healing techniques, so I just use some healing cream I make, Hinata explained, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Poisons, antidotes, and medical herbs, Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded. That isn't covered in the academy, so I assume you studied that on the side, Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded once again. It's a very good start. Now let's see how good your chakra control is, Tsunade said, and picked a small brown pouch from somewhere. Here, put your palms up, Tsunade said, and Hinata complied. Tsunade then emptied the pouch onto Hinata's hands. From the pouch came a bunch of multicolored sand. The sand was composed of 4 colors: blue, brown, red, and green. Now, I want you to separate the sand by color and align them in your palm using only chakra, Tsunade explained. If you can do this in less than 5 seconds, that means that your chakra control is very good, and on par with Shizune, and more than enough for a few medical techniques. If you make it, I'll show a few others that are only known by medics to further increase it, Tsunade explained, and Hinata got to it. Hinata did a few tries just so she could get a feel for the sand. The timer started and Hinata started channeling chakra to her hands. It had to be a very minuscule amount, otherwise the sand would simply fly off of her hands. She decided to split the sand by colors, starting on blue, then going for brown, red, and green. After the sand was divided by color into equal globs, she slowly started aligning them into a straight line. Once she was done, she cleaned a bit of sweat from her forehead. She never had to concentrate so much in her life for such a simple thing. 6 seconds, that's very, very good, Tsunade said, impressed by Hinata. This kind of control was Kage level for fighting, but for medical applications, it was necessary so much more than that. Just out of curiosity, what are your affinities? Tsunade asked. I have both wind and water, but also a small lightning affinity. Due to my usage, the water is my strongest, Hinata explained. Even better, water affinity is the best for medical use, Tsunade stated. I'll show you how to use the mystical palm technique that speeds up the body's natural healing process, Tsunade explained, and Hinata nodded, getting right into it. That day went by without much trouble, and by the afternoon, Hinata could maintain the mystical palm technique indefinitely, or at least until she ran out of chakra. Tsunade had warned of the dangers should she send too much chakra with the technique. If Hinata used too much chakra in this technique, instead of healing the victim, it would render them into a comatose state. Now this time, it was Shizune that decided to teach Hinata on poisons. Tsunade knew everything about poisons, but she was more in tune to countering them instead of creating them like Shizune and Hinata like to. What ways do you have to deliver poison? Shizune asked. The only way I know is to use senbon, or other weapon coated with poison I want, Hinata explained, and Shizune nodded. Then, I'll show you this one, Shizune said, and broke away from Hinata, getting clear from her. Poison mist, Shizune said, just before pumping her lungs with chakra, and expelling a thick purple mist from her mouth. Just by looking at it, anyone knew that it would be better to get the hell out of there. Just by inhaling a small bit of it, it would be fatal. To do this, you must convert your chakra into a certain chemical, and once expelled, it mixes with the air, converting it into the poison mist. So in fact, you breathing a chemical and not the poison itself, making it safer for you to use, Shizune explained, and proceeded to teach Hinata how to transform her chakra into different chemicals to achieve different poisons. Boom! An explosion echoed through the whole field. Hinata turned to the left to see smoke rising on the horizon. Looks like Naruto's having trouble, Hinata said, giggling to herself. With Naruto. Not too far away from where Hinata, Shizune, and Tsunade were, Naruto was also doing his training. He had already done his morning warm-up routine, so now we find him working on his Rasengan. He is currently trying to create a bigger Rasengan like Jiraiya said. Jiraiya is currently missing, and by missing I mean he is doing his research for his next novel. And by research, I mean peeking on the local hot springs or some other place where one could find some unfortunate women with a low amount of clothes on. Boom! An explosion echoed through the field as her Rasengan he had in his hands destabilized and exploded, dispelling the clones and destroying the ground. Damn it, this isn't working, Naruto said, frustrated. He made a cross sign and replaced the shadow clones that were destroyed. He didn't understand what he was missing. He had managed to learn the Rasengan rather quickly, but this was proving difficult. Naruto started once again, and a normal Rasengan, and stopped when it stabilized. He began pumping more chakra into the small sphere. The sphere began glowing, and was quickly approaching twice the normal chakra. Just a bit more, Naruto said, and a drop of sweat fell from his face. Boom! That's it, back to the beginning, Naruto said, shaking his head. What can I do? The outer layer isn't strong enough to hold so much chakra, Naruto was thinking as he was trying to figure it out. Then he remembered his fight against Shukaku, and when he used his Bijudama. The layer can't hold so much if the chakra density is too big from such a small layer, and I must increase the power. The only way is to increase its volume, Naruto thought, and concluded that to maintain its stability, he had to reinforce the outer layer by making it bigger and larger. He began to do just that. Naruto started to gather chakra and stopped at the normal Rasengan. Now, instead of just pumping chakra, he began to create chakra and expand the outer layer simultaneously. The results were instantaneous. The ball kept on increasing while maintaining its stability. Naruto is pumping more and more chakra, and the sphere was almost reaching 4 times the normal amount, and Naruto decided to stop there and see if he could hold it there. Looks like he made some progress, Jiraiya said as he entered the field. His cheeks were slightly colored, meaning he was drinking at some point. I finally got it, Pervy Sage, Naruto replied, and Jiraiya sighed at the nickname. His mother used to call him the exact same thing when she was still alive. How much chakra did you put there? Jiraiya asked to see if his big Rasengan met the standards. 4 times as much, Naruto replied, and Jiraiya nodded. 4 times the normal Rasengan was just fine. Use a shadow clone so it can clash with mine, Jiraiya said. Naruto dispelled the remaining clones, forming only one. The clone made an Odama Rasengan and dashed towards the waiting Jiraiya. The glowing blue orbs connected with each other, and the ground started shaking from the energy being released. Neither sphere wanted to be overrun, but slowly Naruto's Rasengan started to waver and the whole ground exploded. When the smoke cleared, Naruto's clone was still standing, although he was smoking. Your Odama Rasengan is good. You just need to use it a couple of times to get a feel for it, Jiraiya explained, and Naruto nodded, going back to his training. Why don't you take a break? You've been at it for hours. Aren't you tired? Jiraiya asked. It was almost nightfall, meaning Naruto had been training his Rasengan for a couple of hours now. "Don't you know me?" Naruto replied, grinning towards him, and Jiraiya just shook his head. "It's getting dark. How about we go for some dinner?" Jiraiya asked, and knew Naruto wouldn't refuse. After all, one of the things Naruto liked most after Hinata and training was eating. They all regrouped and headed towards some local restaurant. They were all eating peacefully since they weren't in a hurry, and they decided to plan what to do against Orochimaru. Planning against a Kage-level shinobi would hardly work, especially against someone as slippery as Orochimaru. "What are we going to do against that bastard Orochimaru?" Naruto asked, and Jiraiya chuckled. Naruto called him exactly the same thing Jiraiya once did. After all, they were once teammates and almost brothers. Tsunade hummed and thought with her hand on her chin. "I can fake healing him and try to kill him with the medical technique," Tsunade explained. "Are you sure it'll work?" Jiraiya asked. If it failed, she might find herself in a compromising position. This technique looks like the mystical palm, so it should fool him, as he has no advanced knowledge on medical techniques. It works by infusing a poisonous chakra of sorts into a system. Once inserted, the poison instantly spreads through the whole network, destroying almost instantly, Tsunade explained. "He should drop dead in a matter of seconds," I said, grinning. "What if he sees through it?" Naruto asked. "He will know that you sided with Konoha, and most likely will try to kill you," Naruto explained. "The best we can do if she is discovered is to try and lead them into an open field to battle," Jiraiya explained. "Battling a Kage-level shinobi in the middle of a town will most likely destroy everything in it, especially someone of Orochimaru's caliber. There are various types of Kage, and Orochimaru stands in the higher division." "Okay, imagine we can lure him out onto an empty field," Naruto said. "Then what?" Naruto asked. "We smoke his ass," Tsunade simply said, and everyone's sweat dropped at the simplicity of their plan. "Good enough for me," Naruto said, and everyone went back to eating. 6 days later. The sun was shining high in the air, engulfing the whole town in a golden aura. It was around noon, and Orochimaru was calmly walking towards his destination, with his most trusted henchman/sidekick by his side, also known as Kabuto Yakushi. They suddenly stopped as they were in the place they agreed to meet Tsunade. Not even a few minutes had passed, and Orochimaru could see Tsunade approaching in the horizon. He smirked at the thought that his offer had been accepted. He never doubted that Tsunade would refuse it. He knew she would give anything to see them again, even if it was only one more time just to say goodbye. Little did Orochimaru know that Tsunade had already got her wish to see her family once again. Orochimaru was even more satisfied that Tsunade came alone. It further confirmed his suspicion that she accepted by dumping her apprentice. "Do you have your answer, Tsunade?" Orochimaru asked, smirking, and she simply nodded, faking a sad mood. "If I heal your arm, can you really bring them back?" Tsunade asked, and Orochimaru just nodded. "Where's your necklace?" Orochimaru asked, surprised she didn't have it on. "Shit," Tsunade thought, but remained calm, and with a saddened aura. "Why should it matter?" Tsunade asked, and Orochimaru shrugged it off. "Give me your arm," Tsunade said as she slowly walked towards Orochimaru. She flexed her hands forward, and they started glowing green. To anyone else, it seemed like a normal healing technique. Just before she reached Orochimaru, a kunai was thrown at her, making her jump back. "What's the meaning of this, Kabuto?" Orochimaru asked, angry. "That is an assassination technique very similar to the mystical palm. She was trying to kill you, Lord Orochimaru," Kabuto explained, and Orochimaru growled. "How cunning of you, Tsunade, trying to kill me when I had my guard down." "Too bad for you, I have powerful allies by my side," Orochimaru replied, chuckling. "It appears you have sided with Konoha, and I now know the fate of your necklace. You most likely gave it to Naruto," Orochimaru said. "Like hell you'll leave this town alive," Tsunade said, smirking, and without thought dashed towards both of them. She jumped in the air and brought her heel down, smashing it onto the ground and vaporizing it. Time for Plan B, Tsunade thought, and began to chase them out of town and driving them into some empty field. "This is it, Orochimaru," Tsunade said, smirking. "What can you do?" Orochimaru replied, chuckling. "You are alone against both of us, and Kabuto isn't to be underestimated. He is at the level of Kakashi Hatake," Orochimaru said, smirking. "I'm not alone," Tsunade said, taking a kunai from her clothes and sending it to the ground. The moment the kunai connected, there was a bright yellow flash of yellow, and Jiraiya, Hinata, Shizune, and Naruto were seen standing there, side by side with Tsunade. "How about these odds?" Tsunade smugly pointed out. Damn you, Orochimaru replied. How nice of you to join us, Naruto, Orochimaru said, licking his lips and making Naruto shiver. How's the arm? Naruto instantly asked, and Orochimaru scowled. Long time no see, Orochimaru bastard, Jiraiya said, and Naruto chuckled. Jiraiya, Orochimaru said, watching his once old teammate. Let's get this over with, Tsunade said, before elbowing Jiraiya to the side and making him fall to the ground, and started dashing towards Orochimaru and Kabuto. Tsunade was running when Orochimaru quickly bit his thumb, drawing blood, and threw it at Tsunade. The blood connected with her face, and she hesitated momentarily. Kabuto took the opportunity, and using his chakra scalpels, he sliced through the most important muscles in her legs. He was about to cut her throat when he was almost blinded by a yellow flash. Naruto instantly appeared above Tsunade as he had marked her and everyone else. Naruto used Tsunade's shoulder for support and kicked Kabuto in the shoulder, sending him tumbling to the ground. Naruto kicked Kabuto and continued his momentum. He turned midair and locked eyes with Orochimaru. His normal Sharingan quickly shifted to his Mangekyo. Orochimaru sensed his chakra spike and was about to jump away when Naruto said, Amaterasu. Orochimaru's body erupted in black flames, and he fell to the ground, shaking, trying to extinguish the powerful flames. Naruto quickly flashed back to Jiraiya with Tsunade on her toes. She was slightly shaken up from seeing the blood, but it appears her talk with her loved ones helped to the point she didn't become catatonic. She dropped to the ground, and Tsunade along with Hinata started healing her the best they could. Do you think it was enough? Naruto asked. Hardly. I don't think you'll go down with just that, Jiraiya asked, and Naruto extended his senses. He could easily see something being burned with his Amaterasu flames, and Kabuto was getting up. Jump! Naruto yelled, and everyone split away from their current position, as Orochimaru's head bursted from the ground with a sword in his mouth. Naruto looked at the blade and saw it dripping some purple substance, meaning the blade was coated with poison. They jumped away and regrouped, just to see the rest of Orochimaru's body coming up out of the ground unharmed. Naruto focused his eyes towards his flames, and they were still there, meaning it wasn't some clone. How did you avoid the Amaterasu flames? Naruto asked. He knew for a fact that these flames couldn't be put out, and a simple Karawimi wouldn't work, as the flames wouldn't leave his body. He shed his skin, Jiraiya explained, as Orochimaru had some sticky residue in his skin. I remember, Naruto said. He did the same thing back in the Forest of Death. He vomited himself out of his body. That's the best way to describe it, Naruto said, slightly disgusted by the jutsu. Yeah, he was always a disgusting bastard, Jiraiya stated. Why don't you join us, Naruto? Kabuto asked out of nowhere. Why would I do that? Naruto rhetorically asked. There's nothing you can offer me that would make me leave my home, Naruto said. We can offer you power, Kabuto replied. I have plenty of power, Naruto said, grinning. How about we bring back your mother and father? Orochimaru replied, smirking. You're a fool, Orochimaru, Naruto replied, and he raised an eyebrow. I know how to do the Edo Tensei, so I could bring my mother back if I wanted to. However, my father is sealed inside the God of Death's stomach, and we both know that Edo Tensei can't bring his soul back, Naruto explained, and they stared at him. There's nothing you can offer me, Naruto replied, before picking his fan from his back. Cranium Craver, Naruto said, and sent a small fireball towards Orochimaru. However, this ball was going way too fast. Orochimaru and Kabuto jumped away, but the ball collided with the ground and exploded in flames, scorching both of them. Just as Orochimaru was about to touch the ground, Tsunade appeared behind him. Hi there, Tsunade said, with a very sweet smile before cocking her fist and slamming it against Orochimaru's chest. He was sent flying into the ground, and when he crashed, it formed a crater due to the force of the impact. A single punch, one punch, and she broke all of my ribs and melted my insides, Orochimaru thought, just before he shed his skin once again, coming out unharmed. That is going to be a problem, Hinata said as she watched with her Byakugan, and noticed that Orochimaru was once again unharmed. Naruto, Hinata, can you both handle Four Eyes? Jiraiya asked, and Naruto just stared at him with his eyebrows raised. Of course you can, Jiraiya said, deadpanned. Naruto and Hinata both ran towards Kabuto while Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune would deal with Orochimaru. Orochimaru seized his teeth as his odds weren't looking too bright. Apparently, Tsunade wasn't afraid of blood anymore, making him being against two Kage-level shinobi. Shizune he could ignore. He looked towards his sidekick and he knew he wouldn't stand a chance. Naruto had enough raw power to easily match a Kage level shinobi. "You know you don't stand a chance, right?" Naruto asked. "Oh my, such arrogance," Kabuto replied, smirking while pushing his glasses up. "It isn't arrogance when you can't back it up," Naruto simply replied, shrugging his shoulders. "Besides, you're up against two," Naruto explained. "That may be, but I won't go down easily," Kabuto said, and began running towards both of them. Naruto and Hinata teamed up and ran towards him, as well as meeting him at halfway. They immediately engaged in taijutsu, usually when someone is fighting more than one person at the same time. Sometimes it might be easier to hit one of them as they can confuse and stumble on each other. However, this doesn't apply to Naruto or Hinata. They trained together for years and were in love with each other. They were the meaning of teamwork. Their stances flowed together like water in a river, each one covering the other's blind spots. When one of them attacked, the other would slightly fall back into a defensive stance. Kabuto couldn't do anything unless becoming a punching bag for this duo. Both of them were amazingly skilled in taijutsu, with Hinata's being deadlier. Hinata sidestepped a sloppy punch from Kabuto. She grabbed him by his wrist and tried to break it with a twist. However, Kabuto twisted his body along with it, flipping into the air, preventing his wrist from being broken. Naruto took the opportunity of Kabuto being in the air and kicked him in the chest, sending him tumbling to the ground. He easily got up and started healing himself. After he was ready, he channeled chakra to his hands, and they started to glow and buzz like a saw. Both Naruto and Hinata looked at the chakra in his hands with their dojutsu, and they both could see that it was definitely some kind of knife made purely with chakra. "Be careful, Naruto," Hinata said, and Naruto turned to her. "Those are chakra scalpels used to cut muscle and other tissues of the human body during operations," Hinata explained. "So, don't let the hands touch you, right?" Naruto asked, and she nodded. "Yes, let me try something," Hinata said, and stepped in front of Naruto. Hinata pumped her lungs full of chakra and said, "Poison mist." A purple fog came from her mouth and headed towards Kabuto, who was engulfed in a cloud of venom. "He hid underground," Hinata said, as she had seen Kabuto with her Byakugan. Kabuto suddenly emerged from the ground just beside her and tried to uppercut. Hinata had already expected such a thing and tilted her body back, coiling herself and delivering a fierce kick to his face. His glasses shattered and he was sent flying onto the ground. "Nice one," Naruto commented. He always liked seeing his princess in action. "Thank you," she replied. Kabuto got up and spat a bit of blood onto the ground, dropping his glasses as well since they were useless by now. A sickening crunch was heard through the field as Kabuto realigned his broken nose to its proper place. "Can you even see well enough to fight us?" Naruto asked, since Kabuto was now without glasses. "If I channel chakra to my eyes, I can see as good as a normal person," Kabuto explained, bracking. "Don't count me out just yet," Kabuto replied, grinning. Suddenly a huge shadow appeared next to Naruto and Hinata, blocking the sun from them. It was a massive brown snake. The snake immediately slammed itself into the ground, trying to squash them, but they jumped aside, evading it. "Looks like Orochimaru sent backup," Naruto replied, smirking. "Fire-style dragon fire jutsu," Naruto said, and sent a stream of fire towards the snake. The snake was engulfed by the fire and disappeared from view. Once the fire was gone, the snake was still in the same place, and it wasn't even scorched as the skin was too rough for such a weak attack. Kabuto jumped on top of its head, and the snake made her way towards Naruto and Hinata, trying to eat them or squash them. It didn't make a difference in the end. The snake opened its mouth and expelled some semi-transparent liquid onto them. They jumped to the side, and the liquid hit the ground. "Poison," Hinata said, and Naruto nodded. "Wind style, air blade," Hinata said, and exhaled multiple wind blades that were sent towards the snake. The air blades didn't even waver as they hit the snake and sliced it up into multiple pieces, making blood spurt all over the field. The snake disappeared in smoke as well as the blood. "Problem, Kabuto?" Naruto asked, chuckling as Kabuto scowled. "Kabuto!" Orochimaru yelled from the side of the battle, and Kabuto quickly joined next to his master. "Summoning jutsu," Orochimaru said, and traced a line of blood into the tattoo of his only working arm. Both Orochimaru and Kabuto were engulfed in smoke. Once the smoke cleared, a rather large purple snake appeared. The snake was Manda, the boss summon of the Snake Clan, and the strongest of them all. "Orochimaru, I want 100 sacrifices for summoning me," Manda said in a deep voice. "Of course," Orochimaru replied. "I can't summon Katsuyu. I've wasted too much chakra driving them here. Tsunade replied, and Jiraiya nodded. Summoning Jutsu, Jiraiya said, and he too was enveloped in smoke. Seconds later, he was standing on top of a very large orange toad. The toad was Genbunta, the boss of the Toad Clan. Manda and Orochimaru. There are faces I haven't seen in a while, Genbunta said as he released a cloud of smoke from his pipe. Let's end this, Jiraiya said, and Genbunta dashed towards the snake with his sword drawn. Genbunta quickly reached them and tried to stab Manda. Manda simply opened his jaw and caught the blade in it. Genbunta squirmed to try and get his blade free, but it was in vain. Manda flexed his tail and tried to pierce Genbunta, making him flip backwards, and leaving the sword in Manda's mouth. Manda instantly began sliding towards Genbunta and threw the sword back at him. Genbunta jumped to the side to evade the blade, and the sword crashed on the ground, burying itself. You stay, Granny. I'm going to help Pervy Sage, Naruto said, and jumped away from Tsunade, Shizune, and Hinata. What's he going to do? Tsunade asked. I don't know. He's very unpredictable, Hinata replied, and they shifted their attention towards the Titans' battle. Summoning Jutsu, Naruto yelled and slammed his hand on the ground. Manda and Genbunta stopped their fighting to see just what exactly was coming to the battlefield. A big cloud of smoke rose from the ground, blocking everyone's view of Naruto. Suddenly the air was pushed back like a shockwave due to the air displacement, and everyone secured themselves not to get blown away. A massive roar erupted from the smoke that made the ground shake, and the cloud of smoke dispersed. The figure was very big, almost twice the size of Genbunta himself. It had orange fur, very sharp teeth and claws, blood-red eyes, with a black slit and 9 tails swinging freely on his back. After 14 years, the QB was once again unleashed upon the mortal realm. The QB? Jiraiya stuttered and paled at the sight of the monstrous figure in front of him. Everyone else was in shock as they had never expected Jinchuriki to summon their Biju to fight. Like the fresh air, Kurama? Naruto asked as he stood up on top of Kurama's head. I do. It gives me a chance to stretch my legs, Kurama replied, showing his foxy grin. Everyone could feel the strong and oppressive chakra coming out from the QB's body. I like challenges and all, but this is ridiculous, Manda said, not really looking forward to fighting a Biju and the QB of them all. Isn't the QB supposed to be, in the seal? Try to come up with the right words not to piss the QB off. It seems logical to me that I can summon the QB, Naruto said. When you store items in a storage scroll, the items are moved to a pocket dimension created by the scroll. The 8 trigram seal does the same thing and creates a more advanced pocket dimension and a few other things. The summoning jutsu is a space-time jutsu, and with the QB being the boss summoned the Fox Clan, what'd you expect to come out? Naruto rhetorically asked, as Jiraiya was trying to piece everything together. He never looked at storage seals that way, but it made sense. The items in the storage seal had to go somewhere. And since the chakra doesn't flow through my coils when I summon him, I don't die, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya dumbly nodded. Stand back, Naruto said, and Genbunta jumped to the side. The QB was destructive without even trying, and he wouldn't want to be caught in the crossfire. Kurama, let's go, Naruto said, and both of them inhaled the air into the lungs. Fire style, fire stream, the QB said, and expelled a stream of white-hot fire towards Manda. Wind style, vacuum wind bullet, Naruto said, and expelled wind bullets that mixed with Kurama's fire, turning them into hot bullets that would pierce and melt everything in their path. Manda was engulfed by the fire, and the ground destroyed by Naruto's air bullets combined with Kurama's fire. The fire died down, and the only remains were a piece of skin, meaning Manda had slipped away from their attack. Naruto focused his senses and felt chakra signatures beneath the ground. They hid underground, Naruto said, and Kurama jumped back in time to avoid Manda's tail bursting to the ground, trying to stab Kurama. Manda emerged completely, and Kurama roared, making the ground burst into rubble, and Manda being thrown back. Manda got up from the ground and coiled, getting ready to pounce. Kurama flexed his tails and tried to flatten the snake, but Manda managed to slide his way through all of Kurama's attempts. Each time Kurama smashed his tail, the entire field would shake from the power and pressure behind the swing. Manda rose up to bite him, but Kurama managed to swing a tail that hit Manda. However, instead of Manda being thrown back, the snake wrapped itself around Kurama's tail and tried to bite him again. Have a good lunch, Naruto said as 5 clones jumped into Manda's mouth. The clones instantly began to glow and exploded inside the snake's mouth. Manda fell to the ground with his jaw smoking. Damn brat, Manda hissed, couching or something similar. "Goodbye, Snakey." "Amaterasu," Naruto said, and looked towards Manda's head, deep in concentration. Black flames erupted around Manda's head, and the snake dropped to the ground, rolling and coiling and hissing in pain. Orochimaru and Kabuto jumped away from his head and landed on the ground. Manda disappeared in smoke, meaning he went back to his realm to heal. The snake disappeared, but the flames remained there, meaning Manda managed to get rid of them, which meant the snake was still alive. "Kurama, end it," Naruto said and jumped out of his head. "Okay," Kurama replied and brought all of his tails above his head. Red and blue chakra was seen floating in the air. Suddenly all the chakra bubbles condensed and formed a small perfect sphere. Kurama ate the chakra ball and Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. "Bijudama," Kurama said, and a pure energy ball exploded from Kurama's mouth like a cannon, heading at high speeds towards Orochimaru and Kabuto. Kabuto panicked and blurred through hand seals. He took a bit of Orochimaru's blood and slammed his hand in the ground. "Summoning triple Rashomon," Kabuto said, and 3 very large defensive structures rose from the ground and stood in the path of the tailed beast bomb. The energy sphere connected with the Rashomons and exploded in a tunnel of energy. The entire field shook and everyone just stood in awe at the power of the strongest Biju. Earth-style Earth Wall, Dryas then trapped himself along with everyone else inside an Earth Dome to survive the brutal and scorching winds unleashed by the attack. The energy eventually died down and the dust started to settle down, clearing the view of everyone. It was very clear the difference between a 4-tailed Bijudama and a true bomb used by the Biju. What was once a pretty plain field with grass and flowers was now nothing more than a desert without a sign of life for miles. Everything was eradicated, leaving nothing to be seen but emptiness. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the sight of the attack, and he could see Orochimaru squirming on the ground, trying to get up, and Kabuto was nowhere to be seen, most likely vaporized. "Unbelievable," Dryas in disbelief, as he dropped the stone wall and gasped at the sight. It was the second time he'd seen a tailed beast bomb, and the results were still shocking. "Looks like it's the end," Tsunade said, looking at Naruto walking towards Orochimaru, who was on the ground in pain. His whole body was a mess with broken legs, and the clothes scorched as well as half of his face. "This is the end," Orochimaru said, Naruto said, as he took the sword from his seal and channeled lightning chakra through it. Naruto was ready to cut the head of the snake and end it for good. "No, you can't kill me. I'm Orochimaru, the immortal," Orochimaru yelled in frustration as he looked towards Naruto and tried to crawl away. "Stay away," Orochimaru said in fear. "I never pegged you for a coward, Orochimaru. Begging for your life. Pathetic," Naruto said, and brought his sword up to cleave his head for good. Naruto was about to cleave Orochimaru's head when Kabuto burst from the ground with his fist closed. Naruto saw right through him and jumped back to avoid it. Naruto was jumping back and placed his hands on the ground. Golden chains erupted near Kabuto and pierced him through both of his shoulders and ankles, pinning him to the ground. "Damn that Kabuto for always interrupting," Naruto said. Kabuto was on the ground, barely conscious, with blood dripping from his mouth. It looked like the tailed beast bomb did a fair amount of damage to him. "Amaterasu," Naruto said, and Kabuto's body erupted in flames. Kabuto tried to shake them off, but the flames held him in place, and the only thing he could do was scream until he was dead, and nothing more than ashes in the ground. 5 seconds later, Kabuto Yakushi was no more. "Damn, brat, you'll pay for what you've done," Orochimaru hissed and disappeared in smoke, as the distraction had been enough for Orochimaru to shun Chunin away to safety. "Damn it, he got away. I had him, but his assistant had to interfere," Naruto yelled in frustration. Orochimaru invaded the leaf, tried to kill the third, and summoned his family to do his bidding, and once again, he got away. "Don't worry, Naruto. At least we got his right-hand man," Dryas said, and Naruto sighed. There wasn't much more they could do. "I guess, but next time, he won't get away," Naruto said. "I'm going, kid," Kurama said, and Naruto nodded. "Thanks, Kurama," Naruto replied. "This wasn't half bad. Let's go to a hotel to rest and pack for the journey home," Tsunade said, and everyone nodded. After the battle, everyone was mostly fine except for a few scratches and broken ribs, but nothing life-threatening.